Hey everybody, it's Jaganathan, and welcome back to the Top Tech Info. Today, we're diving deep into the world of soldering flux, that often overlooked but crazy important element of a great solder joint. See, flux isn't just some magical goop. It plays a critical role in getting those shiny, strong connections we all crave. It's all about getting down to the nitty-gritty of how different types of flux can make or break your soldering game. We'll explore the pros and cons of each type, from the classic rosin flux to the more specialized options, so you can choose the perfect one for your next project. Trust me, understanding the nuances of flux will take your soldering skills to a whole new level. First up, we've got rosin flux, the OG of the flux world. This stuff has been around forever, and for good reason. You see, rosin flux is derived from the resin of pine trees. It's like tapping into the power of nature to make our soldering better, and I'm all about that. Now, rosin flux comes in two main flavors, rosin R and rosin activated RA. Rosin R is your basic all-around flux. It's great for general-purpose soldering on clean copper surfaces. Think of it as your reliable workhorse for everyday soldering tasks. But when you need a little extra oomph to tackle slightly oxidized surfaces, that's where rosin activated RA comes in. RA flux contains an activator that gives it a boost, helping to remove those pesky oxides and ensure a super solid solder joint. The activator is typically an acid, but don't worry, it's not the kind that'll eat through your workbench. It's strong enough to do the job, but gentle enough to use on most electronics. So, there you have it, rosin flux, a classic choice for a reason. It's reliable, effective, and let's be honest, who doesn't love the smell of pine while they're soldering? Next, let's dive into the world of water-soluble flux, often labeled as WS flux. Now, this type of flux is a favorite in the world of electronics manufacturing, and for a good reason. The beauty of WS flux lies in its name. It dissolves in water. That means cleaning up after a soldering session is as easy as a quick rinse. No more messing around with harsh chemicals or solvents. WS flux is particularly well suited for surface mount components, those tiny little chips and resistors that populate modern circuit boards. It's also great for through-hole soldering when you want to minimize the risk of flux residues causing problems down the line. But here's the thing about WS flux. It's more active than rosin flux. That means it's better at cleaning oxides and promoting good wetting, but it also means you need to be a bit more careful with it. You don't want to leave it sitting on your circuit boards for too long, as it can potentially corrode delicate components over time. The key with WS flux is to clean it off thoroughly after soldering. A little bit of water goes a long way, and your electronics will thank you for it. Now, for all you busy makers out there who love to keep things simple, let me introduce you to No Clean Flux. This stuff is the epitome of convenience, designed for situations where cleaning flux residues is either impractical or impossible. Imagine you're soldering delicate electronics, where even a drop of water could spell disaster. Or maybe you're working on a project with tight spaces and intricate components that make cleaning a nightmare. That's where No Clean Flux comes in like a trusty sidekick. No Clean Flux is formulated to leave behind minimal residue after soldering. What little residue remains is usually non-conductive and non-corrosive, so it won't mess with your electronics. But don't let the name fool you. While it's called No Clean, it's still a good practice to wipe away any visible residues, just to be on the safe side. Think of it this way. No Clean Flux is like the duct tape of the soldering world. It's not always the most elegant solution, but it's incredibly handy to have around for those tricky situations. It's a real time saver and can be a lifesaver for certain projects. Let's move on to something a little different. Paste flux. This type of flux comes in a thick, paste-like consistency, making it ideal for applications where you need precise placement and good adhesion. You'll often find paste flux used in plumbing, where it's used to solder copper pipes and fittings. The thicker consistency of paste flux allows it to stay put, even on vertical surfaces. It also tends to be more heat-resistant than other types of flux, making it suitable for applications where higher soldering temperatures are required. But paste flux isn't just for plumbers. It's also a great option for electrical work, jewelry making, and even automotive repairs. One thing to keep in mind with paste flux is that it usually requires a bit more heat to activate than other types of flux. You'll want to make sure your soldering iron is hot enough to melt the flux and allow it to do its job properly. And as with any type of flux, proper cleaning is essential, especially if you're working with electronics or other sensitive materials. So next time you're tackling a soldering project that requires precision and a bit more heat resistance, reach for that paste flux and get ready to make some solid connections. Last but not least, we have liquid flux, the go-to choice for precision soldering tasks. As its name suggests, liquid flux comes in a liquid form, making it incredibly versatile and easy to apply. You can use a brush, a syringe, or even a toothpick to apply liquid flux with pinpoint accuracy. This type of flux is often preferred for fine-pitch soldering, where you're dealing with tiny components and narrow spaces. Think electronics repair, jewelry making, or any other application where precision is key. Liquid flux is also a good choice for rework, as it can help to reflow solder and remove stubborn components. One of the great things about liquid flux is that it comes in a variety of formulations to suit different applications. You can find liquid fluxes specifically designed for electronics, plumbing, jewelry making, and more. This allows you to choose a flux that's perfectly tailored to the materials and components you're working with. So if you're looking for the ultimate in control and precision, liquid flux is the way to go. Just remember to use it sparingly and always clean up any residues after soldering. There you have it, the wonderful world of soldering flux. Who knew that something so seemingly simple could have so many variations? But as we've seen, each type of flux has its own unique properties and ideal uses. Remember, the key to successful soldering is choosing the right flux for the job. So, next time you're tackling a soldering project, take a moment to consider the materials, the components, and the desired outcome. Then, select the flux that best fits your needs and get ready to make some rock-solid connections. And remember, as with any good experiment, don't be afraid to try different types of flux and see what works best for you. Happy soldering, everyone!